This week on Filthy Hope.
Yeah, see, this is the thing. We're so scared of identifying what it is. It's a friendship. It's hanging out. I remember just this crippling anxiety of sort of knowing that I wanted to be friends with this girl that I knew at church and thinking, oh, she's amazing. She would never want to hang out with me regularly, let alone at all, probably. But I thought I'll ask her for coffee, and then after that I might even say, maybe we can do this once a month or first Friday of every month or whatever it is. But it's just getting over that initial barrier of worrying about what people will think of you and realising that most of us are driven to connect. We're seeking connection.
We are wired.
So let's not
to connect.
Let's not assume everyone else has got a million friends and that they're
that's
fine.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Filthy Hope. If it's your first time here, welcome. On this podcast we spend time in the grey spaces where Jesus, life and culture intersect. As always, I'm your host, Pastor Jonty Cornford, and joining me is my co-host, Rev Ness. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. We're keeping dry.
Yes.
It's a bit wild and wet out there.
Pouring, mate.
But in here it's nice and cozy.
Cozy-rama.
On the new set, it feels very...
Oh, it feels like
like we're at home in our lounge room.
Doesn't it feel like that?
Yeah.
Mum's going to have cottage pie and call us to dinner soon.
Exactly, yeah. So we better get through it before curfew.
Nice.
So today I'm very excited to jump over to what we're about to jump over to. We had a special guest in the studio earlier today, Alison Leader hit us with the organisation. From
Eastern Community Connect, SECC, located in Mascot.
And so she reached out to us. Maybe, do you want to tell us how that happened?
Yes, I received this great email from her introducing herself and talking about the non-profit organisation that they run, Southeastern Community Connect, and thought that she would connect in with local communities to probably communicate with the services that they provide. And I was really pleasantly surprised to see what they do. And they do so many things. They do a dementia daycare centre. They do a food pantry, got my interest spiked when I saw that. Low-cost in-home respite care, which is epic for people with dementia. They also provide social work support for families in need, and they have a toy library. It's all operational in Mascot. They feed 150 people a week with their food pantry alone. And she talked about, social isolation and things like...
some domestic violence support as well.
Yeah. And the loneliness caused by being a digital native.
Yes.
I hadn't heard that phrase before.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
I don't want to give too much away. We should just really cut to her interview.
All right, let's just jump straight in.
Yeah,
and we'll
good.
unpack some of our thoughts afterwards. But for now, let's jump straight over to our interview with Alison Leader. We'll see you on the other side. Well, joining us here in the studio, we have a very special guest. Please make her very welcome onto the show. Alison, how are you?
It's so good to be here, Jonty and Vanessa.
It's wonderful.
Should I say Ness or?
Oh, you just crack out Ness, Vanessa, whatever.
But yeah, it's wonderful. It's really wonderful to be here, Jonty and Ness. I'm super excited.
Yeah, we're thrilled to have you, and just up the top, thank you for coming in. We really appreciate giving your time.
It's a pleasure.
Can you maybe just to kick us off, introduce yourself to our listeners? Who are you? What do you do? Maybe like the pitch, the pitch deck for what you do and just so people have a bit of a picture of who you are.
Yes. So my name's Alison and I work for a community organisation called Southeastern Community Connect. So we're based in Mascot. I'm a graduate at Morling College and I've got a Bachelor of Ministry, and I've got a real heart for the community, activating community spaces, creating spaces that help people to feel less alone and more connected. When I was studying at Morling, I was passionate about pastoral care, about chaplaincy, about being the hands and feet of Jesus in spaces that perhaps the church doesn't necessarily inhabit. So at Southeastern Community Connect, I feel there's a real opportunity to provide support to people who are on the fringes, who might not normally have access to support for a range of reasons. So one of the things we do is a food bank. We run a program where they can access free food that's provided by our charity. We have a Dementia Day Centre in Darling Point, which enables carers to have a break while they leave their loved one with us to engage in lots of stimulating activities that support them on their dementia journey. So those are two of the main things that we do at Southeastern Community Connect. But that's what I'm doing at present. But I am, in my 40s. I have 2 teenage boys, which is a journey in itself. I am married to a pastor of a Baptist church in Beverly Hills in the south of Sydney.
Shout out.
Yay. And I love that. I am passionate about social justice, about supporting people who perhaps are on the outskirts that may not necessarily know how to seek help, and so that we can go to where they are and support them. So that's a little bit about me. I'm also a passionate writer. My dream is to launch my own podcast one day. I write a blog, and I'm passionate about all things communications, social media. So that's a bit about me.
Yeah, awesome.
It's amazing.
Wow, that's so many things I want to follow up on.
Can we start with the food pantry?
Yeah,
Jonty?
please.
Yeah, because when we were chatting, Alison, you were talking to me about how social isolation and the food crisis is absolutely at a critical level in the community at the moment. And you were telling me that your organisation feeds up to 150 people a week, and it costs the organisation about $1,000 to do that. How do you raise the money to make that a thing?
It's tough. It is coming off our bottom line on the most part. Our Christmas appeal last year was our biggest Christmas appeal ever. We saw huge amounts of donations coming in from the community, but because of the huge need, and we were incredibly grateful for that, but because of the huge need, it lasted about a month before we needed to dig into our own savings and find ways to meet the needs of the community. So, we are currently subsidising most of those food hampers that we hand out to the 132 usually people every week that come through our doors. So, there is a critical need for more food supplies. We are very grateful for the support of Oz Harvest, as well as Baker's Delight and other local businesses and other charities that help us to feed those who are doing it tough. But it's an ongoing challenge meeting their needs in the Mascot area and surrounds. So we service those people who are in southeast Sydney across our 5 LGAs, Wallara, Waverley, City of Sydney, Bayside and Randwick. And there's a huge amount of need in all of those LGAs. Often there's need in places that you'd least expect there to be need. And the face of food insecurity is definitely changing. It's not the people in social housing only anymore. It's people who may have a chronic illness who can't work anymore. It's international students. And as you know, the rising cost of living, the rental crisis, this is all impacting on people's ability to pay for their food. And so that's where we come in. We meet them with a cup of tea, a coffee, a biscuit. We then fill up these white bags with, it sounds wrong, white bags. We fill up hampers. So we meet people with a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, something to eat, and then we give them a bag of essential items to take home. So we are there when they arrive, we are there when they leave, we are there for a chat. We are there to refer them, if needed, to other services such as our domestic violence program, which includes casework support from our team. And we're there to tell them about our play groups and our family support programs and all the different things we offer as a community organisation. But if they don't want to talk, that's fine too. They can just sit in silence, enjoy the library, enjoy the spaces that we've got there, and take what food they need and head off, knowing that that's at least taken a little bit of an edge off the struggles that they're facing in in that week. So, there's a huge need.
It's so interesting working in Wallara. So we're smack in the middle of Queen Street where our church is located, Uniting Heart and Soul. And the interesting thing is trying to pitch to my community that there is food insecurity in the middle of Lamborghini Maserati land. And the irony is that there is. And there's domestic violence and all sorts of mental health issues that you find in any area. It's not food insecurity doesn't discriminate, does it? Nor does mental health issues. And the work that you are doing is really servicing such a pivotal need at a grassroots level to the community, and it's so impressive and deeply heartwarming. It's almost as if you're a Christian organisation, but you're probably doing it better than the Christian organisations.
We're very lucky to have the support of an amazing team around us who all passionately care about our community. And so, I feel that in a sense we are the hands and feet of Jesus, even though it's a secular organisation. I think there's just something so powerful about being able to give someone something so powerful about being able to give someone something as practical as food support.
Yeah.
There's something beautiful about being able to give people food, especially when you see families come in with their son hasn't eaten in 3 days. You don't think that that's going to be the case here in wealthy Sydney, as you said, Ness. But this is the reality.
Yeah, it is the reality.
There's women who lost their husbands or women who've been in domestic violence relationships who have got kids they need to feed. So we've got a lot of nappies for them that have come through donations from the community, which we're, again, incredibly grateful for. And really, to me, it's about that opportunity to connect as well. It's not just about the food, it's about the cup of tea and about those conversations and about that story sharing that happens when people access support, because that's the entry point, but then it builds from there. It really does, as you would know from the work that you do. When someone comes for help,
most
there's
definitely
an incredible opportunity to support them in a range of ways.
And we are so new at the community food pantry place. We're just getting ready to launch into that space. It's taken time to work on a model that we perceive that will work, and talking with you, Alison's been really helpful in our other private conversations off the pod. It's really helped me strategise as to what type of food pantry we'll be able to provide, and we're going to kick that off in the Wallara area. And I noticed that you do 2 afternoons a week, Wednesdays and Thursdays, 1 till 4 p.m. We might try and work other days so that we can cross-refer and be providing the people in need.
Perfect.
So we need to make sure in our show notes we've actually got the details of where they come, people come. So if there's any listeners out there that know that there's a need in their community, to send them down to you, and certainly we'll be spruiking our stuff when we're ready to launch as well.
Yes.
We're also going to be doing the cup of tea and maybe some scones and pack a hamper of supplies for people. But it's knowing it doesn't feel enough, does it? Just doesn't feel enough to give them, a couple of meals for their family. It feels like surely isn't the government doing more to help these people? We've actually got somebody that's sleeping in our garden at church, and I've never been there in the morning when that person is still asleep, and they must come really late at night because there's a body shape form in the garden on the soft part of the front garden and right up near the wall of the church. And it just breaks my heart. If anybody knows who that is, tell them to come in, give them brekkie, Woolies voucher to get some food.
Yeah,
something like that kills me.
It does kill you to know that that's what's happening. But sometimes all it takes, well, not all it takes, but sometimes it's just that conversation that can kickstart a series of events that lead to freedom, in a sense, from food insecurity or from homelessness. I think when we meet people, we can never assume that they know the steps to take to find support. And there is support, as we were talking about, there's support at Southeastern Community Connect through the People's Pantry, and there's support for those who are accessing your services. But we need to look at our community as a community that perhaps doesn't know the extent of support there is out there. And yes, there definitely is so much more we could do. But I think being able to communicate the resources that we have available, like that person that's sleeping in your garden, if they were just to know that there's a hot cup of coffee waiting for them, that might lead to a conversation that leads to a referral or to a counselling session. It might be years before that person can sort of start to see change, but it starts with a single step. We're all works in progress. We're all on journeys wherever we're at, whether we're sleeping in the garden or sleeping in the Ritz-Carlton, or we're all on journeys where the people we meet are pivotal to our finding freedom and our finding a step out of the despair, whether it's an emotional despair, psychological despair, a physical despair. So I'm passionate about communicating what resources there are available, because we live in a beautiful city that's full of both despair and rejoicing, because there are good people out there that are helping. But how do we get the word out? That's what I'm passionate about.
Yeah, great.
In the area of communications.
Yes.
I'm always about, okay, so when we meet someone, how are we following up on them? What is that communications journey? What does that look like? How are we making them feel seen? It may just be as simple as a follow-up text or an invitation to coffee, but how are we making those connections? How are we referring them to people that might really be able to help them to get out of that place of despair and hopelessness and lead them into a place of hopefully freedom from what they're going through. Yeah.
You know, Alison, we have been advertising our free and low fee. When I say low fee, I'm talking $30. Counselling service with a psych at Wellness HQ and down in Double Bay. And to get I've put ads in the newspaper, we've thrust money at social media campaigns, pushing the word out. And we've been operating now for a couple of years, and now our books are really full, and we're looking at extending the service further. But do you know one of the most powerful ways that we have advertised and communicated what we've done? And it's the very thing that blew my mind. You know the dumb signs outside churches where you slide the bloody plastic bits of wording, the letters in?
Oh, me and my sons, we always laugh at them.
Exactly.
It's terrible.
Dumb, old 1970s.
Usually some horrible pun.
Terrible.
I mean, they're cute.
But the signs themselves, I just hate. I just think they're awful.
Yes.
In this day and age, they're just absolutely horrible. But we are on the corner of Queen Street and 4th Street, epicentre of Wallara. It's just like a golden piece of real estate. And I put up a message. Some of them can be really tacky because I'm the queen of tack. But this one I put up and I said, free counselling. No, it's not a typo. If you're in need, call Ness now or pop inside.
Yep.
Oh, my, Alison. They started bloody coming inside.
Wow, that's amazing.
And
it worked.
ringing, yes.
And it's a great look from a marketing point of view. It's awesome. Yeah,
mate, who would have thought?
Good.
All this fancy money that I was throwing at the newspaper, I just had to put up, this isn't a typo, this is the real deal.
It's funny, it's good.
Yes. And just by the sign itself, just overtly saying what it is that we do. At the moment, I've got up there something like, is your family dysfunctional? Need free counselling? No, it's not a typo. Come inside.
That's good.
Yeah.
I like it. You're a really good copywriter.
Oh, thanks, mate. Did you
She's
hear that,
good,
Jonty?
huh?
Did you hear that?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, that's so funny. I just thought, what would I?
Careful, I'll get you writing copy for the podcast.
Oh,
if you're
no.
not
Oh,
careful.
wow. Watch out. Add that to you. Your job description.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's hilarious. So just simply saying what we do has been just without razzle dazzle, just say it.
Yes.
You know, use the language that people need to.
Tapping into what the need is.
Yeah.
In a humorous way. You can't get better than that.
Yeah.
I think that's something that that's a quality of the person of Jesus that often is overlooked. Is it doesn't matter how good your message is if you don't know how to deliver it. And like Jesus drew a crowd. People swarmed to hear him speak. And I think that's something that lots of churches do really well, but also lots of churches don't do very well, and all the way in between on that spectrum of the gospel is such a powerful message, and all of the things that the gospel then charges us to do, whether it's things like Wellness HQ or a food pantry or whatever it is, doesn't matter how good that thing is if you don't know how to then tell people about it. And not only get that piece of information in between someone's eyes, but for them actually then to receive it and for it to resonate. And a lot of the time, I think one of the things that probably made that instance of the sign out the front work is because there was a personal invitation. And people went, there's a person behind that message and here's how I can get in contact with them.
It's not just a faceless organisation that's looking for your business, which, and
it wasn't about money.
No, absolutely.
And in that suburb, when it's lots of Botox, fillers for the lips, fake boobs, booty enhancement and fancy clothes, to be offering free psychology is, I think it was a big thing. And people value that.
Yeah.
It's huge.
And there's a need.
It's as you said, Jonty, it's a great offering and it's communicated well. So I think, obviously, no matter how good your marketing, if it's not a good product or if it's not appealing, it won't, and the best marketing campaign in the world will not ultimately sell it long term. But obviously what you offer is incredibly needed given the mental health issues we're facing and given how expensive a session with a psychologist or a counsellor is.
I know. They make good money, don't they?
They do.
Really good cash.
They do.
Yeah.
And that's the way our industry is in terms of what we offer, and the cost of psychology is huge, and I think there's definitely more we could do to subsidise that further. But the fact that you're offering that is incredible, and I can understand why. Your books are full with that campaign, and also with the incredible appeal of having someone that is able to support you through your crisis, through your struggles.
A compassionate witness, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
Yeah.
Being heard, loved and listened to.
Yeah, that's right.
So if somebody is experiencing DV, how do they get in touch with you, Alison? What's the process and what would they expect if they reached out to you?
So if they're experiencing DV, we have a domestic violence team that's available to support them. So we did receive some funding to be able to offer those services, which we're very grateful for. There is currently a little bit of a waiting list, but that often changes as as people become more and more able to support themselves in different ways through that journey of healing. But when they do contact us at the hub in Mascot, they can be assured that someone will get back to them with information about how long that waiting list is, and then they will be booked in with a caseworker who can, once the waiting list is no longer there, they will be able to meet with a caseworker who can talk through their practical options. We don't currently offer counselling due to just the lack of funding for that. We've pitched to a huge amount of places for counselling, but aren't able to offer that yet.
Send them to us, sister.
And we will do that now that we are partnering.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to be able to offer
Very
them
exciting, isn't it?
It is. There's just such a need.
Because we don't need to reinvent the wheel, do we?
No.
You know?
That's right.
And if you're nailing food, maybe we need to be shooting our people to you for food insecurity.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
Or support you in that. We need to talk more about that because otherwise we're all trying to do the same thing, you know.
And look, there'll always be a need for food.
Always.
But yes, we're definitely lacking as far as counselling goes, but our caseworkers are able to offer social work support. They can point them in the right direction, and they can help them with housing issues and all those practical issues, security issues. There's so many aspects to being in a
and linking in with the police.
Linking them with the police and getting that support. Yeah.
Oh, it's such a big...
Yeah, no, we help set them up when they're relocating. When they've secured housing, we help them with what they need on a practical level. There's lots of aspects to it. We give them a new phone because often they're being tracked on their phones. So just being able to help them to move forward with better security and better anonymity. That's a big issue. So lots of issues.
Yeah, there are so many issues, and it's such a sensitive topic and so much shame around it, isn't there? And despair, rightly so.
Absolutely.
Just terrible thing.
Yeah.
Tell me about, Alison, the cottage.
Yes, so
can you unpack that?
Another amazing thing we do is run a Dementia Day Centre. So that's called the Cottage, and that is based in Darling Point. So it's a beautiful spot overlooking the harbour, and people who are caring for someone with dementia are often feeling really isolated, really disconnected, and they're feeling like they're giving 100%, but they never have time for themselves. So what we offer is a door-to-door pickup service where we go and we collect your loved one who's struggling with the journey of dementia, and we bring them to the cottage so they can be in any of our LGAs, the 5 LGAs that we service in Sydney, and we bring them to the cottage. We run an amazing program that stimulates their mind, lots of activities that are at their level, give them those social connections, and we provide them morning tea and a hot lunch, and then we take them back home. So the benefits of that is obviously the cognitive stimulation for the person with dementia, but also respite for the carer. So,
does that cost money, Alison?
It is $60 a day for that service, and so and that includes everything that we offer. So
it's like dementia daycare.
It is. Yes, essentially.
How incredible.
Yeah.
And then
people are struggling with that role of being a carer.
Be exhausting.
Yeah, like I was chatting with someone the other day, and she said it just never ends. That the needs that he has, my husband, is not the same person that I married, and it just feels never ending. She was struggling with depression and struggling with loneliness because the couples that they used to hang out with, they haven't coped well with him and his diagnosis. So it's awkward silences and
non-invitations probably.
Yeah, non-invitations. So I think a lot of people who care for someone with dementia are finding that they have to build new communities because the old communities that they used to take part in just haven't accepted the way they are as a couple now, the way they are as people. And so it's in many cases a case of starting again. And definitely there is a community that they do find at the cottage. We have a number of carers supporting each other on that journey, chatting about their experiences. They go to carers support groups in the local area. There's one at St Luke's, which is amazing. There's singing groups. There's lots of things they can do, but again, it's a matter of just making people aware that these things exist and communicating that.
And Alison, to book in, how do you book in somebody that's one of your loved ones? How does it happen?
Yeah, so there's a bit of a process. They have to have a dementia diagnosis, and then you have to obviously make sure that that is the case. So they talk to someone who runs the cottage about that, and then they set up. And then they give them the opportunity to try it out and see if it's a good fit for them, because sometimes they may not enjoy that space. For whatever reason, it might be too stimulating or not stimulating enough or all of those things.
And Alison, does that operate Monday to Friday?
It does. It operates Monday through to Friday.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
So in our show notes, Jonty, we must put down those details so if people are listening and interested that they can reach out to the cottage and find out how to connect in there.
Yeah.
Can I ask another question? Because there's so many things that you do at Eastern Community Connect. You've got the social work support for families. Have we covered off that in regards to, is it just DV?
No, it's not. So we are funded to provide support for families with children 0 to 8. So it's called the Targeted Early Intervention program. So the idea is that if you support families with children early in that child's life,
Yep.
There's less of a likelihood that they will face the same degree of challenges down the track. So we're all about supporting families with children 0 to 8, particularly through our supported play groups, through our family skills programs. So we run a lot of programs such as CPR for babies and toddlers, so what to do in an emergency.
Great.
Practical skills. We run school holiday programs. We run family support programs throughout the week. So there's a lot that the families of South East Sydney can access in terms of support, and the caseworkers are always looking for when someone might need a little bit more support, and then they go through our referral process to see if they need some more intensive casework support. So
How amazing.
yeah, it's very, very practical and very supportive environment for families. So
Imagine if there was some really wealthy philanthropists out there listening to this that could throw, money over to you. Imagine that.
that would be amazing.
Wouldn't it just?
If I know wealthy philanthropists, and I think I do, they all listen to our podcast.
Jonty's connected. He's well connected in the community.
Elon, get in touch.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, just a shout out to my mate Elon.
Yeah.
I just think it's extraordinary, the work that you guys are doing. And imagine if there was a non-empty bucket full of cash.
Yeah, that would
Imagine
be
how many
incredible.
mouths you could feed, how many people could access counselling and social work help and all the support structures, and therefore our families could be healthy, stronger and more connected in the community with less trauma and upset and isolation and all the bits.
Yes, it would definitely
It sounds-
address the imbalance.
Wouldn't
and
it?
it would also address the loneliness epidemic that we're seeing. It's just, and this is something I'm passionate about us addressing as a community. People are lonely.
Yeah.
And some people, there is still a stigma, but I think it's less and less a stigma now. People are coming out and saying, I'm lonely. We could talk about, obviously, the impact of the digital age and all the contributing factors to loneliness, but it's just so
Alison,
incredibly hard.
Across all demographics, loneliness?
Well, yeah,
Is
I
it-
would say so. I think the demographics that are struggling the most are those who are digital natives, so those who've never known a life outside of a mobile phone, who don't have those
digital
skills.
native.
Yes,
You're a
yes.
digital native,
Yeah,
Jonty.
so I'm
Digital
probably right
native.
on the front end of that demographic where I have no memory of a time where I didn't have access to the internet,
Yeah.
for example.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, yeah, you're right. For a lot of people, my age and younger especially, we have instant access to contact with literally anyone, which has the potential to then generate our own kind of social environments where we're actually not in the habit of being physically in community with each other, which is so important. And definitely one of the benefits I found of being in church communities is you meet with people and you eat meals with people. And when you don't have that, life can very, very quickly become very, very lonely if you don't have people that you meet with that care about you.
Yeah. When that's not built into your week, when those habits of turning up to church or turning up to a community centre for board games or whatever it might
whatever
be,
it is.
whatever
There's so
it is
many
that
things.
you love,
Yeah.
when that's not built into your week and into your planning, it's so easy to slip out very slowly, but very surely you start to, and we saw this obviously in the pandemic, you fall out of practice. You lose that habit of meeting with people, and then we don't realise the toll that takes on our mental health until we're in a space where we're so scared and so anxious about human interaction.
Social anxiety.
That we have social anxiety
Yeah.
and it's affecting more and more people. And And it ties into loneliness. It ties into all of those things that a lot of digital natives are struggling with.
I'm loving that expression.
Yeah.
Did you make that up?
No, I can't take credit for that one.
Have you heard it before?
Yeah.
I'm not a digital native, am I?
No.
Want
It's
to
kind
be.
of roughly from probably I technically lie just outside of what a digital native. I'm 1998
Yeah, right.
baby, so it's probably more like 2005 onwards.
Interesting.
But
So, yeah.
it's not a hard and fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're native to the country of digital media.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've never known a life outside it.
Yes.
You're in the habit of
Yes.
this.
Yeah.
And we are in, us that are in a slightly older generation are obviously in those habits. We're sort of starting, those habits are ingrained as well in our lives in many cases, but we've known a world that hasn't included a mobile phone.
Yeah.
So we're still, just call them or meet up, whereas digital natives won't call near as easily as those that are of us that are more approaching middle age. Yeah.
So interesting. I'm well into my middle age. I'm like old lady land now, and we have just bought a new home. And it's
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's a really interesting story.
Must be nice as the mid 20-year-old here owning a
afford
home.
a home.
Nice one. Yeah.
No, there was a time when I couldn't either. So don't give me that shit, Jonty. I'll talk to you about that.
Yeah. We'll have that conversation
Another
later.
time.
Yeah.
So sold our home. There's a couple of really interesting things that have happened. So I live with a couple of digital natives. Anyway,
Yes.
This house that we've been living in has this terrific kitchen bar bench with terrific chairs at it, but you don't face each other unless you drag the chairs around. So of an evening, if we're going to have a meal together, that's how we'll do it there. We don't sit at a dining table because the dining table is outside on the deck that overlooks Pittwater. Don't feel sorry for me. It's really nice. But
It must suck.
at night time.
Really feeling for you.
Yeah, shut up. At night time, it's not the vibe, okay? And often we're all at different schedules, so we very rarely have a meal together. It's been really a weird phase of our lives. And we're moving home, and to sell the home, we had to put a dining table in the home. So we dragged out the antique dining table and set it up. And we've started sitting around the bloody thing. I've got to tell you how great that is. We have started sitting there, having meals and looking at each other and having conversations again and realising how magnificent it is not to be on our phones, not to just kill a meal and go back to our own little den in the house and do our thing, but to actually communicate. It's been relearning stuff that I'd lost touch with myself. Super interesting. Another little funny story is this home that we're moving to has a backyard. It has no swimming pool because we're ditching the swimming pool, and we've got a grass area out the back. And I said to my daughter, who's 28, I said, this new house has got a grass area. I wonder if we'll set up, I know what I'll do. When I'm a grandma, I will get swings. I'll do swings and a little pool for the kid, and the grandkids can come over and I'll push them on the swings. And then she said to me, but Mum, I don't know if kids will be into swinging on swings when I have kids. I thought, shit, that's a thing because they'll be digital natives. And they're the little kids that go up to TVs and try and swipe them, aren't they?
Yes.
They are going to be those bloody kids that just want to be on the iPad, not like how I grew up swinging on swings and trampolines and in the pool and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's a really different period of time that we are moving into. I'm quite sad.
It is, and obviously AI, and that's a whole other topic, but I think that's why I'm so passionate about community activation, because we are fast losing it if we don't do something about it. As you said, Ness, sitting around a table, looking at each other, having eye contact, eating a meal together. They're the key pillars of community. Eating, looking, seeing people's body language, having that connection, and that's community. A vital community in terms of it being your family. But kind of widening that kitchen table to include a whole lot of other people is vital. Our church runs a craft group, and we put a old school letterbox drop of leaflets out. 30 people turned up. We've never seen so many people turn up to any event that we've run because we're so tiny, and we try things and they don't always work. But the craft group is taking shape really quickly. We're regularly getting the same numbers, but it's people sitting around a table eating afternoon tea that people have handmade.
Yep.
Knitting, crocheting,
gorgeous,
writing, drawing, whatever they want. It's a creative space, but it's looking at each other. It's and these are things that we took for granted. I mean, not to idealise the past, but I think there's a risk of losing those face-to-face interactions and using your hands, eating together, if we don't continue to activate community in the spaces that we've found ourselves. Obviously, here in Double Bay, there's endless opportunities. Where I am in Beverly Hills and where I work in Mascot, there's opportunities, and I love seeing what's possible when we just communicate that there are people that are going to walk alongside you, they're going to sit opposite you, they're going to have those conversations with you, they're going to ask you what your story is, and they're going to care. They're not going to butt in and interrupt, we hope, but they're going to hold space for you and your story. And we need the stories to keep being told, and as you said, Ness, before, just, no judgment, just creating
compassionate witness.
And compassionate witness, that's right.
That's it.
I think there's still certainly, like, and I've experienced this personally, that there's an anxiety, but almost like a sense of shame or ego associated with reaching out to someone and saying, like, hey, can we just hang out? Like, and it sounds absurd when you put words to it, but like the simple act of being like, hey, let's meet up one-on-one and just hang out. I find sometimes you can be like, oh, are they going to think I'm like clingy? Am I being too like, but I actually just want to hang out with someone. And it's ridiculous. And I think, on the one hand, trying to break that stigma of just being like, hey, I miss you, let's hang out. Or, hey, I'm lonely, can we go to the pub? Or like whatever it is. But also on the other hand, knowing that can be difficult for people, especially like people that experience like really, I know people have crippling social anxiety, knowing who those people are, and if you haven't heard from them in a couple of weeks, reach out, because they might actually just be struggling to do the simple thing of sending a text or sending a phone call or even speaking in person.
100%.
I hear from people a lot who say, I don't want to be the one to reach out. Just on that, Jonty, I think like they don't want to be the one to initiate. And I'm thinking, and I tell people like, well, I say to people, I've long gotten over being the initiator in relationships. I will initiate till kingdom come, because it is, often you can't wait until people initiate. And then that starts to become a rhythm and you're interacting more. But it is a real barrier for some people, as you say. But once you start getting in that habit, as we talked about before, getting back in the habit of social interaction, it becomes easier. But it's just that you're breaking that initial barrier and not being afraid of saying, hey, do you want to meet for coffee? But it's scary for a lot of us, I think.
It can be, yeah.
That's right.
I think like the longer you leave it, if I'm thinking like a one-on-one relationship, like the relationship that you have with a specific person, the longer you leave it in between speaking to them, the scarier it can get.
Yes,
because you can kind of go, oh, do they even still...
Yeah.
Do they know me? Do I know them? Are they the same person from the 6 months ago when I spoke to them? Like that,
the anxiety gets worse.
Yeah, for some people that can be really, really, really difficult.
Sure. Yeah. So it's about regular contact. I mean, obviously we can't always have regular contact with everybody in our social circles, but not letting it get to that point where it's so hard. Ideally, but making that contact. And sort of saying, hey, let's meet up once a month, like kind of not being afraid to put a bit of not a contract, not a social contract, but see, this is the thing, we're so scared of identifying what it is. It's a friendship, it's hanging out. I remember just this crippling anxiety of sort of knowing that I wanted to be friends with this girl that I knew at church and thinking, oh, she's amazing, she would never want to hang out with me regularly, let alone at all, probably. But I thought I'll ask her for coffee, and then after that I might even say maybe we can do this once a month or first Friday of every month or whatever it is. But it's just getting over that initial barrier of worrying about what people will think of you, and realising that most of us are driven to connect. We're seeking connection.
We are wired.
So let's not
to connect.
Let's not assume everyone else has got a million friends and that
No,
they're
that's
fine.
exactly right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
My mum is in a retirement village in Castle Hill, and she used to be a barrister. So she was smart, thinking, quick-witted, bright, intelligent woman. And she's only in her late 70s, and she says to me one of the highlights of her week is going to bingo. She says, I'm a bit embarrassed by Ness, but it's so much fun because of the interaction, because you're just a group of, and she'll often say, well, there's a high court judge there and a dentist and a doctor, and she wants to be talking about the fact that she's in a cluster of people that are intelligent, but by the way, we're playing bingo. She said it's so much fun. And she said it's just hilarious. They all just love it. And I said, what is it that you love, Mum? And she said, I was expecting her to say it's the interaction with the people and just the fun and the stimulation of the numbers in the brain and the things. She said, I win a tin of peaches.
That's funny.
Christmas sorted, just get a peaches.
Yeah, exactly. Wow.
Some weeks it's salmon. Oh, Mum,
wow.
that's a classic. She said, and she kills herself laughing. She just thinks it's so much fun. But she feels very stimulated by that. It's the communication with the people, it's the numbers, it's the thinking, it's the I suppose the competition. It's the combination of all those things. And how interesting and simple is that? Running bingo. Maybe we should do that, Jonty. Maybe I'd love to call bingo. I reckon it'd be bloody hilarious.
You'd be pretty good at it.
I reckon it'd be a cracker.
Yeah.
I think that could be so fun.
Yeah.
Don't you? No, we could do it as an outreach event at church. Don't you think that could be fun?
In a year's time, you'd be a full-time bingo caller. And we'll have this conversation again.
Yeah, legs 11 from Rev Ness.
22, two ducks. Is that the thing? I can't remember.
Yeah, it sounds like you're going to line up for that one.
Yeah, I've done a bit of bingo in my time.
Oh, okay, there we go.
It's really fun.
But I think we've got such a privilege as community organisations, as churches, just to have the space to be able to run things or to test things. They may not work.
Yeah,
they may.
that's right.
We didn't think the craft group would work. It's working. It's creating opportunities for connection. But just to have that privilege of being able to offer spaces that people can come to. It doesn't have to take a lot of planning, setting up a bingo night. I mean, it could, but it doesn't have to necessarily take a lot of resources just to activate community in the spaces that we've already got access to.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're lucky. Yeah.
Oh, well, I think you're kicking goals and absolutely smashing it. And I'm just so grateful that you reached out to me, Alison.
I'm grateful that
I
you
really
initiated this podcast opportunity and the partnerships that we're going to share in the community. So
I just think it's amazing because the more of us that do connect and can help with all the different areas that we've discussed today, the better the world will be, I think. So if there's anybody out there listening that thinks that they could dovetail in on the mission of what you're doing at Eastern Community Connect and what we're doing at Uniting Heart and Soul, please reach out to us because how amazing we could change the world, Alison. Jonty,
we could. And we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One family at a time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
Yeah.
So if people do want to reach out to you, where would the best place be to do that?
Yes, so you can head to our website, which is sec.sydney, secc.sydney. So, type that into your browser and you'll find our website that's got all of the things that we do. There's donate buttons in there if you have the capacity to donate to our pantry where we help people with food relief, and there's information about the cottage as well.
Yeah, amazing.
So all the philanthropists out there,
Elon.
send checks now.
Get cracking.
Yes, sister.
We need you.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? Amazing.
Yeah. Anything else we want to chat about before we wrap this up? I feel like this has been such a wonderful conversation.
It's been really lovely.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot.
What are you grateful for, Alison?
Good question.
Is that a good one?
Yeah.
Nice. I'm just grateful. I'm just grateful to be alive, to be able to support the community in ways that are practical. I think we talk a lot about helping the community in our churches, in our community organisations, but to be actually able to show up for people who are having a hard time, that's the biggest privilege in the world.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, every day that I do that, I'm grateful. every day that I show up for my family and my friends, just to be alive in this world that God's created, to be able to connect. I've struggled with lots of things in my life, depression, anxiety, so I know what it feels like to struggle, but to know that I'm still here and I'm able to support people in practical ways and just be a listening ear when they're ready to share their story. That's a privilege I don't take for granted.
Beautiful.
So I'm grateful for that.
It's beautiful.
And we're super grateful that you could join us today. I've really
Thank
enjoyed
you.
this conversation.
It's been really lovely.
Beautiful.
Thank you for everything you're doing.
Yeah, thanks, Alison.
Yeah. And if people listening have any follow-up questions, thoughts, feel free to that email address. I'm sure Alison would be happy to get back to you, or just send us an email at filthyhopepod@gmail.com and we can pass on anything as well. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah. Thank you, Jonty. Thanks, Ness.
Pleasure.
It's been amazing.
And we're back.
Good interview.
Far out.
Yeah.
I felt, I don't know how you felt doing that, but we really kind of she really warmed into that conversation as we kept going. It felt like we were about to start a whole second episode worth of stuff. So now that we've got that connection with her.
Yeah, I'd love to have her back to talk about her own faith journey.
Yes, because I know that she has a very, very interesting faith story.
Yes.
Just in terms of leading to where she is today and how that informs what she does in her professional life. So I definitely think that is a story that we'll return to in the future.
I love the fact that she was a graduate of Morling College, because my best friend Kim Kawanaki is the Associate Dean of the Counselling department there at Morling College, and I love the Bappos, so it's really nice to think
we
that
got
she's
a soft
educated.
spot for them here.
Yeah, we love the Baps. And so I felt like I had an instant connection with her. She's just a terrific woman who really cares and has a deep desire to provide service and love and into the community. And we need more people like Alison Leader in the world.
100%.
Don't we?
Yeah. So,
I love that comment about being a digital native.
so this surprised me that you haven't heard this phrase
Where
before.
have I been? Under a bloody rock?
Well, yeah, and it's such a, like, someone like me, born in 98, I'm turning 26 this year. To me, and I guess this is the point of what this phrase even means, that's just like a very natural kind of background term that just describes who I am.
Right.
But for a lot of people, and I have to remind myself of this whenever it comes up, that in the grand scheme of modern culture, and for a lot of people living today, it's very new and very a recent thing that's occurred. Not just this phrase, digital natives, but the fact, like the existence of the internet,
Right.
is like, depending for all people of all different ages, is just a part of what communication has looked like in their lives.
Yeah.
But for people my age and younger, it just is the reality of communication, is the internet.
Rob and I had met, and we met in 1987, and I'm not sure if the internet was a thing yet, but not for the general public. Maybe people were using it in corporate, I'm not sure. But I certainly didn't have access to that information. I remember it being talked about.
Yeah.
And we had to communicate either by telephone or by mail. And Rob and I, for our whole relationship, while he was in the US and I was in Australia, we have our letters that have been, I bound them into folders in chronological order.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, of our love story. It's really cool. Rob wrote on yellow lab paper, and my dad had made me my own letterhead, which was in a soft pink with a ballerina in the corner. So we've got yellow and pink paper that all comes together and handwritten.
You could publish
stories.
them.
Oh.
Or are they not appropriate for public consumption?
Oh, my kids love reading them. They kill themselves laughing.
Yeah. That would make a really interesting
That's an interesting
publication,
read.
I reckon.
Yeah. It was like a 10-month story of our life, what we're each doing.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Digital native.
Because and my experience of like dating, if we're going to go there, by the time I was old enough to be dating, I was using my mobile.
Right.
So Facebook Messenger.
Oh my gosh.
One of the very first dates I went on was set up with MSN for people that remember that. And it certainly wouldn't have picked up the telephone to ring them and be like, hey, do you want to go on a date? I just shoot them a message and then talk to them in person later at school, having done the scary thing over text message.
Wow. So different. Yeah.
Yeah, but I almost think that I've probably come out through the other side of that a little bit, and I'm that annoying person that calls.
Yeah,
a lot
love
of the
a
time.
call. Yeah.
Because I find this is going to sound like I'm super popular. I'm not. I get overwhelmed by the amount of notifications and messages on my phone on the daily, and part of it is because of what we're doing here. I receive all of the notifications and stuff, and that I need to either get a separate phone for that stuff or figure that stuff or whatever. But so often I'll just ring someone because I know that there's a message from 2 days ago that I haven't got to.
Right.
So I shoot them I'm so sorry I didn't get your message. I don't get most messages now because my phone's just full of shit. And we'll talk for 5 minutes and then anyway, talk to you later. And speaking to what Alison was talking about, even just talking over the phone and hearing someone's voice is just so much more of an instant connection in just the simple transfer of information, because there's so much that you can lose in the nuance of language and just the text.
Dumb text.
But also B, just like the relational element of it and actually sharing your life with people. And
it's so interesting because I tend to not even ring unless I'm in the car with my daughters. I'll FaceTime them. Yeah. So if I want to talk to them, I'll FaceTime them, so I'll look at them. So cool.
You'll probably enjoy this. Some mates of mine during COVID, we discovered this app called Cappuccino. And what it is basically like a voicemail type thing where you record up to 3 minutes of your voice, and then each day you get sent, when it like plays music over it, everyone in your group, so you make a group and you hear messages from everyone in your group, basically. And so we were doing it during COVID, just to like keep on top of like how everyone's going and just catching up and that stuff. But we have a friend and also a friend of the show. He's been on the show before. Jack and his wife Amelia, g'day if you're listening, have been overseas for almost a year, and they're coming back in, I think it's June. They're just about to head out. When this comes out, they will have been on a 5-day trek through Nepal. Wow. And they've been away for almost a year. And so instead of, definitely phone calls and FaceTime, but we have been using this app Cappuccino. And you get
cool.
So
ways to stay connected.
Yeah.
It was definitely a great interview. I'm very glad that Alison came into the studio today.
Yeah, she was such a lovely, open person.
Yeah,
and
just a joy.
It felt like, when you meet someone for the first time, it's like, I feel like I know you, even though you've met them for the first time.
There must be a fabulous culture in that workplace. They're all like Alison.
Yeah. So if you're at all interested, do get in touch with them because they do incredible work and would love your support in any way, even if it's just ringing them up and saying, hey, love what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We will see listeners of Into the Word. We'll see you tomorrow. If you don't know what Into the Word is, we're doing that. That's our new podcast. It's a 10-minute devotional that we're doing each week as well.
It's not a daggy devotional. You make it sound like it. When you say devotional, it sounds like...
I don't know if we as co-hosts would be capable of making a daggy, boring devotional. So if you can imagine what we do here...
about
that's
Jesus.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's who we are, what we do here on Filthy Hope in a shorter format, talking about Scripture. So if that interests you, if you haven't heard of that before, if you're new to that, check that out. I'm sure there are other stuff that we normally talk about at the end of the episode, but I am fried at the moment. So just check down below, check the show notes, check the video description, all that stuff will be there. If you want to follow up with anything, filthyhopepod@gmail.com, send us an email or reach out on our Facebook group, link down below.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We will see you next week.
This is a prayer for the people